I think we can start our final session. Please take your seats. And somewhere in the corridor, I was asked, how do we unite all those things that has been touched upon in our discussions? And just one thing, we are trying to unite them in advocacy. So the things you see here, okay, we are having expert discussions, but in daily activity of Europa Patient Association, we are trying to advocate for policy solutions. And same is true when it comes to the topic of our final panel, so hybrid security, and when the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation on Ukraine happened, very quick with some friends, with Janek Śpiewak, with Weronika Grzebalska, who for health reasons cannot join us today, and many other people, we launched a manifesto of hybrid security, which was later translated into policy report, which reached policy decision makers. Because from the very beginning, we saw, and I can just super quickly, polemically refer to what opened our whole conference. An excellent opening address from Nobel Prize winner Oleksandra Matwійczuk, which somehow posed freedom and security as mutually excluding alternative. This is not our approach. Our approach is that freedom is a condition of security and the way around, but this is abstract, yeah? We need to talk about detailed policies to see how this could work, and I'm really happy that I'm joined by, in this final discussion by three excellent panelists. First, Małgorzata Gasperowicz, who's joining us from Canada. I hope you can hear us, Małgorzata. Is everything all right on the Zoom front? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I can see you.
Good afternoon, good morning, I suppose, in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes, so Małgorzata is our close collaborator from the very beginning, a scientist, an expert on COVID. Later, moving from my, sorry, it's been a long day, so excuse me speaking in a foreign language. Wiktoria Jędruszkowiak, again, our close ally and co-founder of Wschód Movement, Fridays for Future Poland, and again, you might ask, what does climate change have to do with security? And I'll ask the same question to Wiktoria in a while. And Professor Maciej Gdula from the New Left Party, with whom I would like to also talk about the topic that we had to talk when we're talking about climate change, wars, that is migration. So, my dear friend and colleague and co-founder of Europa Patient, Aleksander Temkin, who's sitting down there, said recently that security is a nice word if you are to mobilize social energy for collective action. Yeah, like then this kind of dilemma of collective action at times might be overcome if we appeal to security, as we saw and we heard from our Ukrainian friends how innovative they were defending their basic security, their lives, and so on. But of course, and this is something we also touched upon, talking about security also comes with a cost of perhaps downplaying or even suppressing at times internal differences, discussion, as we heard from David on example of Sweden and the imposed consensus of the Swedish COVID governmental response. So that being said, let me start with you, Victoria. Could you tell us a bit about your kind of engagement with thinking about security in broader terms? Because what I found really important in what you are doing with Dominika Lasota and other activists of Wschód is how you're trying to think about security with climate and social issues. So if you could speak a bit more to that, also talking about, say, the dangers of this kind of engagements.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Mateusz, for having me here. And I'm very happy whenever I can speak on behalf of Wschód about what we are trying to bring to the climate movement, but I guess also about what we're trying to bring to, in general, like the youth engagement movements in Europe, because I think that in last years we've seen a huge kind of this dilemma about whether it's time for young Europeans to finally stop speaking up on behalf of, for example, young people from the global south, and how do we find ourselves in a situation where it is also a high time for the youth from the global south when it comes to climate crisis to speak up on their behalf and fight for their rights, fight for the climate justice in the way they want. And I guess Fridays for Future movement that was funded by Greta Thunberg, so the Swedish activist, the activists very clearly from Europe and the global north. We're wondering how we include in the real way activists from the global south, not to only tokenize them in a way, like to just have this, for example, a conference where there are many European activists and there's so much on about European agenda, and then we have some token activists from, I don't know, Uganda or Pakistan or other places. And it was a huge dilemma also when the full-scale war broke out, because hearing so much about how much harm is being done in the global south, and suddenly having a full-scale war so close to Poland, it was a big dilemma if we should even speak up about that in the terms of climate justice. So how to link climate justice and wars, and especially this war, the Russian full-scale war in Ukraine, in a way that is true and is just not us using this momentum to bring more people to the climate topics. And I guess the first moment when we realized that we are the ones who actually have to speak up about that, and who also have a huge power to influence on European Commission, on European Parliament, on many different officials that are then going to, I don't know, climate summits and represent us, and that we are the ones that have to show this to me, the outrageous fact that in the moment where the full-scale war broke out, Russian budget was in 50% based on fossil fuels. So 50% of the money that basically Putin had to lead this war was money from gas, oil, and coal. And to me, this fact was something that just kind of changed my whole view on what is our role as European climate activists, mainly Eastern European climate activists, and how we also have to differentiate our role from the role of the Western movement, for example, the German movement, the Austrian movement, or Scandinavian movements when it comes to climate justice. So this was the fact that brought us to the point where we knew that we are the ones kind of that have to bring that topic, and also we, of course, have to do that together with our Ukrainian friends, with amazing young people from Fridays for Future Ukraine and other movements who were very bravely fighting for the full embargo on Russian fossil fuels in last year. And this was the fight that brought us to the point where I felt like actually European Commission had to take into account what young people say, not only about, the bright vision and future that is based on, I don't know, green new jobs, but also something that is more from this political hardware, as I very often refer to, that is basically about fossil fuel industry, that is basically about the big oil companies, the big coal companies, the big gas companies that are there to mainly not only create the climate disaster and climate chaos, but also to drive wars. And to me, this is very important it was very interesting to, suddenly get to know so much more about how basically all of the financial crisis from 60s were started with the changes in oil price and on the energy market, and how then with the energy crisis in Europe that was devastating for so many people was also driven not just because of the war, but not by just the war and Russia and what Russia was doing on the energy market, but also how the energy companies were so greedy to kind of lead us to the point where we had to pay, I don't know, 60% of money we're getting monthly for just paying for the energy, and that was devastating for many people, not only in Poland but also in Germany or in Ukraine even. It's so, like, to me it was so devastating to be in Lviv this year and see how the shortages of energy plus the huge price that people have to pay for this energy, and then again the big problem on the huge moral dilemma on, okay, but we're still paying Russia, who's attacking our people, to even stay alive when it comes to hospitals and everything. I think that was very, very devastating. And ahead of COP28 that starts actually next week, which I think is pretty crazy. And also looking at the whole kind of looking how negotiations on the UN level look like, and how after 27 COPs we still are not in the place where we are sure that fossil fuel phase out will be in the final document of climate summit. I think that was also the high time for us to understand that, okay, the climate disaster is something that's already happening in the world. The climate crisis is there. We can see that in Poland, we can see that in Europe, but we can mainly see that, of course, in the global south. I'm talking about Dubai, for example, right now, that is completely flooded a week ahead of the climate summit, which is pretty... I wouldn't use the word funny, but I think it is pretty funny to see that the oil state is being completely flooded a week before the climate summit, that they want to make another deals on gas and oil.
Yeah, it's a kind of Noah moment, We've been talking a lot with our friends from the Islamic and Jewish community about that, so maybe some kind of reminder.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very symbolic moment also for us, and that's something that climate movement will be using for sure. But I think ahead of this summit, and also with having a huge conflict in the Middle East that is being more and more heated right now, and also we are finding out more links of this conflict again to fossil fuel industry. I think it's a high time for us to finally say that fossil fuel phase out, not phase down, but phase out, is something that we need to fight for at this COP, especially. And thinking that, especially in such a big oil state country, a state that is just funded on oil industry, having agreeing on that would be a huge success for the climate movement. So that's our main fight for now.
Thank you, Victoria. And just for the politically minded people in the room who might not be aware, it was a huge piece of what is called public diplomacy to see Polish activists meeting Ursula von der Leyen, other top officials at the EU, calling for a full embargo on Russian fossil fuels. So just a reminder how these things were actually linked. If I may now move to Małgorzata Gasperowicz. Yes. From Calgary University. Małgorzata, could you, super simple question. Could you just speak to the link between COVID and security?
So thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me. So actually I wanted to make make a presentation. So I have some slides prepared. If you could let me share the screen, that would be great. So I could. Is it possible? I think you either.
Are you having any problem with sharing the screen?
Yeah.
One second. Małgorzata, if I see the button. It should enable to share the screen, but if we have
If you click on the bottom line when there's screen share, there's a little arrow. So I don't have it, but the host would have it. And then you have enable everyone to share the screen. Or you can make me a host.
Yes, we still can't see it.
Oh, okay, it works.
Dorota, no, we can't.
Yeah, I can share. It's good. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's working. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. So can you see my slides now? I have a problem in seeing them. Okay. So my name is Gosia Gasperowicz. I'm a developmental biologist, and since the beginning of the pandemic, I'm observing, I'm calculating, analyzing the spread of SARS-CoV-2 or dynamics of it. And today I would like to talk about COVID and clean air and how important COVID and clean air is for our security. So COVID, why is COVID important? And why is it bad for us? It makes people dramatically less fit. It dysregulates immune system. It causes cardiovascular problems. It causes cognitive impairment. And recent research showed that it's equivalent of 10 years of aging, like in cognitive decline. And it's especially bad now for young people. This is just an article from New York Times.
Gosia, if I can just interrupt you for a second, because we just can see a very, very small version of the slide, so maybe you've got other... być może masz otwarte inne okienka. Sorry to switch to Polish for a second.
Wiesz co, mam dwa... bo ja widzę to bardzo, bardzo wielkie.
Tak. Gdybyś spróbował udostępnić okno, a nie ekran cały?
Udostępniłam okno.
Okay, one second.
To za chwilę. Może ktoś inny w tej chwili się wypowie, a ja po prostu coś zmienię z komputerem.
Let's do the way. Sorry for the technical issue on the last stretch. So while we be fixing the problem, if I may turn to Maciej Gdula right now. So we already talked about global south and migrations in terms of climate crisis, and as you might know, there was a very serious discussion in Poland as well, due to the crisis on our northeastern border with Belarus. And Maciej Gdula was one of the politicians who tried to come up with solutions to this crisis and to this very, very heated discussions that even if the war ends with Ukrainian victory, we hope, we will be having more and more due to climate crisis itself. So I'll just stop here and I let Maciej to take it from here.
Thank you, Mateusz, and thank you for inviting me. I have to start by saying that there was not a huge bunch of politicians who advocated to act on the Polish-Belarusian border. I think they can be counted on the fingers of two hands. And we have like 460 MPs, yeah? So it was not a great big group of people. And I have to say that I am a former MP right now. I'm not saying that my engagement was the only reason that I'm not in the parliament, but for sure like this question of migration doesn't win votes. Doesn't win votes in Poland. That's very sad, but it is like it is. What I would like to do is to relate to what was said in the panels before, like what our Scottish friend said about looking for new solutions, looking for experiments. I think it's very important, but I have to say as well that it's extremely difficult when you are a politician. I was an MP, but my background is academic and activist. And what I see right now is that politicians act also in a specific environment. They speak to a broad public. It is related to moral issues. It is, and it is very antagonistic. It's very much related to the conflict. What was important in this battle over what is happening at the border? What happened then? You know, it is the pushbacks, people dying on the border, the construction of the barrier. It was very hard to bring up effectively to bring up the discourse of human rights. To convince people that those people that are dying there are the human beings. They were considered to be soldiers of Lukashenko, economic migrants, threat to our nation. There were the three roles that they were given in the public discourse of law and justice. What we were trying to do was to present a different perspective. First of all, is that we tried to convince people that there is no alternative between security and humanitarianism or human rights, that you can have both. It doesn't mean that you, when you help people, it means instability of your own country. This was, I think, we were not very successful in that. Maybe because we were not governing. When you are governing, it's simpler. You can use units of border guards. You can use secret forces. By the way, I was the part of the Secret Service Committee, which is quite small, and I had a specific view on this right now. You can use special forces to guarantee the security of the border and guarantee the security of the flow of people. And I think, but we were not very successful in convincing people that there is no alternative. But I think when you are governing, and this will happen right now, I think that convincing people that the flow of people is controlled is one of the key issues. Like, people have to be convinced that there are guys who are controlling who is coming in. And I think it is something that can be done. This is one thing. The other thing is related with the discourse of capacity. Maybe I will. I hope it will not bring your discontent with what I'm going to say. But we use the term of environmental capacities and the limits of the environment. I think it is not it should be not outrageous that there is also some kind of capacity of social environments to accept the flow of people, the influx of people, the migrations. I think that, of course, it's not something natural. We have to test how many people can be brought. We have to test how successful we are in integrational politics. I'm very, like, I would like to say to you that I am very in favor of migration, and in Poland it is also we are in need of people. We are having demographic crisis. We will have to stay the country of migrants, like we are right now, with almost 6% of the population that are coming from other countries. But I think that we have to accept and I think we have to speak about it, that there are some capacities, that not all the people can be accepted, that we can integrate, we can offer we can offer the good life only to some people. It is important also when we confront the right. The right is using the very strong anti-migration discourse, and they are saying those people who are coming, they will take back the quality of life, or they will take from you the quality of life. They will use public health care. They will use public schooling. They will use kindergartens, and you will be left with nothing. Yeah? I am strongly convinced that what we do with migration also affects our own societies. So if we say that we should not be in solidarity with the migrants, it will also affect internal politics, and it will be harder to convince people generally to solidarity. When that's why I'm advocating solidarity, and I'm advocating integrational policies, but there are some limits to it, and we have to acknowledge that. And third, and the last thing I would like to say is that we really have to involve, or we have to use the discourse of fighting human trafficking. I think that it is important, as it really is the threat for human lives, and it is really bad business. And I think that it's not only how we should organize things inside European Union or inside Poland, but it must relate to what is going on outside of our country and outside of European Union. And I think we should engage and collaborate with other countries in fighting human trafficking and parallelly open up our societies to migration.
Thank you so much. Just commenting on that, I think in this respect, whatever our particular stance on migration, I really like this notion of capacity, which is limited, of the societies that are people are migrating to, and we really need to think about institutional instruments for this. And trade unions, we're happy to have representatives of trade unions, and the one that is talking about Ukrainian workers, doing quite a lot to integrate them into the Polish workforce, so there's less pressure of this kind of social dumping, race to the bottom. And same thing proposed in the report New Solidarity. We co-authored with many authors across the political spectrum about the capacity of our health system, education system, which is not unlimited, and without serious investment, which inshallah we'll see with the new government. We'll see. Let me now move to Małgorzata. I hope the technical issue was solved, and we could see the slides.
Yes, I hope that too.
Yes, so let's check.
Please let me know if now you can see the slides.
We can see, great. So without further delay, Małgorzata, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So basically, I would like to say why COVID is bad and why clean air is good and very important. So COVID is bad for us. It makes people dramatically less fit. It dysregulates immune system. It causes cardiovascular problems, cognitive impairment. Probably everybody heard, and probably everybody knows someone with long COVID. It affects young people too. and especially now, we can already, mainstream media like New York Times just a few days ago published this this article showing in the quite dramatic and sharp increase in cognitive problems in young people 18 to 44. So where are we at with COVID? We have very high level of sustained transmission, almost in every country. Those are hospitalizations in Canada. And we see that from the beginning of 2022, we had high or very, very high levels of COVID circulation. So it's not seasonal like a flu, nothing like that. And in Poland, and there is a problem. We don't have good data reporting anymore. It's difficult to find good data and good reporting, so everybody can understand where we are staying at. So in Poland, I could find SARS-2 wastewater levels in Warsaw, and that was the only data I could find, actually. And we see that we have now high levels again. We have quite a peaceful summer, but now COVID is back in high amounts. And because we let it spread so much, so people are infected almost all the time in high amounts. And so because it spreads, it can replicate. When it replicates, it mutates and it evolves. And it shoots out mutants all the time, like new variants. They are mostly more transmissible and more immune evasive, but it's also possible, although there's no evolutionary pressure to it, but it's possible that it will shoot out something that is more deadly. So, for example, that it has 10% fatality rate. And that's why it's really, really dangerous. And now I show one graph, and it's I calculated it last night, and it's just please bear with me, because I think it's really important for the security reasons. So basically, it's so on the left side we see the logarithmic scale. So it's not normal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Blue line is daily new cases. Red line is daily new deaths. If we have a new variant that has 10% fatality rate, and it shows up somewhere on the earth, and it comes to Poland, in the pre-pandemic days, we could, once we see some deaths that are respiratory-like, we would react because we know, oh, something bad is happening. But now, because we normalize deaths, and we have so many excess deaths due to COVID every day, like probably like in Canada, we might have now like 50 or 100 daily new excess deaths. It's normalized and nobody pays attention. So we won't see some extra deaths here. We might see that something is happening when we reach this point. So we have 100 or more daily new deaths. Then it's, oh, something wrong is happening. But by then, we already have so many cases daily. So this new strain, new more deadly strain, would be everywhere in every city already. And before government reacts, for example, next 30 days, we have 800 daily deaths. So we are in sort of, before the moment we realize something is bad, we are already in the very spread everywhere disaster. So that's dangerous. And so our blindness in this is dangerous. And this scenario can be for COVID variant, but also it can look similar for a deliberately released pathogen right now. But the good news is that we have all the tools. We have all the knowledge and all the tools necessary for this not to happen, because we know that COVID is airborne and most other respiratory diseases are also airborne. And so we know that it spreads via aerosols, via short-range aerosol transmission and long-range aerosol transmission. And we know how to stop it. We know that ventilation and air filtration stops long-range aerosol transmission, not so much the short-range. But when we wear respirators, so FFP3, FFP2 masks, we can prevent ourselves from inhalation of bioaerosols. But but still there is aerosols contaminated in the air. But when we have two-way masking, so if everybody wears respirators, we prevent contaminating the shared air, which is very important. And when we have all these three tools, so filtration, ventilation, and wearing respirators, we can stamp out transmission of respiratory diseases and COVID. So how to make Poland and other countries resilient to airborne biothreats? So it's very important that we would have educational campaign on aerosol transmission of pathogens, because I think it's not super common and intuitive knowledge right now. And it would be really great if everybody would know what aerosol transmission means and why we need protection against it, as much as we know why we need to boil water and wash our hands. We need clean air in all public indoor spaces, so improved ventilation, HEPA air purifiers. And we need special attention to break the transmission chains in super spreading settings, such as schools, daycares, hospitals, and congregated living. We need national stockpile of respirators so that it could be released to people when there is such need, like very, very quickly, so people can protect ourselves from bad pathogens. And we really need to stop COVID transmission to prevent further disabling of population, because it's really, really harmful. Thank you very much. And here are some useful links. So, okay, you cannot do screenshots now, but yeah, so here are some useful links and very, very interesting book. So I'm not a biosecurity expert, but Professor Raina McIntyre is one of the best biosecurity experts, and she wrote an amazing book that is very interesting to read, so I recommend it.
Thank you so much, Małgorzata.
Thank you.
Just for you to know, if you enter the House of Commons or you enter European Parliament, you've got this stuff and CO2 monitors. Same thing in Davos. So, to use a bit of a populist language, global elites are aware that COVID is real and exists and is not gone. The question is whether we want same kind of security for our children in schools, for ourselves in public buildings, and are we willing to pay the cost of not dealing with this? And yeah, compared to the cost of investment in infrastructure. So I think this was really instructive. Thank you, Małgorzata. And
Thank you.
Since it's been a very intense day, at least for me, but I think also discussions were engaging for you, I won't be summing up in an intellectual way. I think the panel spoke for themselves, and our panelists made very, very clear points on what should be done in the respective areas we are dealing with. So I let my guests to say any kind of last remarks, if you would like to.
Who is starting? I would like to thank you for bringing together the issues of security related to health, to migration and environment. I think it is very inspiring idea, and I really I'm really grateful to you that you are active also in the public sphere. You are trying to influence journalists, politicians. I think it's definitely important thing to do. And I would like to ask you one thing, which is very, very difficult for activists. And I'm saying about activists, also including myself in the past. Like politicians also act in a very specific environment, and they usually they do not have resources. It looks like something completely unbelievable, but it is right. I was a politician, I am a politician. Politicians usually lack resources, lack time, it is important, and they lack what can be called social attention. Like they have to fight for social attention. They will react for what you are saying when it is understandable to broad public, when it is well prepared, easy to digest, and they can use it to some extent as something that is given to them for free. Yeah, I think it is important. You have to remember that that politicians are not bad people. There are, of course, some bad politicians. We know that, but they are not bad people as a rule. But they function in a very specific world, and I think also the activists have to take it into account when preparing their actions. Of course, I'm not saying that you have to shake hands only with politicians, not to criticize them, but you have to give them chance as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm also very grateful for this conference. I'm grateful for what you all are doing daily, because I think also providing so many people on this the whole environment that want to actually bring some changes. It's important to bring a very important how do you say it? Very important resources that I've seen you very often bringing, and without Mateusz we wouldn't be doing the embargo campaign. We wouldn't be trying to create this huge link that was at first very hard to digest, the link between the fossil fuels and Russian invasion in Ukraine, and many others that then this knowledge and kind of this also passion to I guess be to be ready to actually state things that seem hard and difficult and unpopular. I think it's very important to do that, and what we are trying to do in Wschód is that we're trying to bring very alternative discourse to the mainstream, and I think it's a very hard work, and I think it's very close to what you've said about how we have to also be ready to prepare many things for the politicians so that they can drive change. I think our Polish politicians very often lack this passion or willingness to be ready to actually while in the office do things that are unpopular. And I understand that being a politician is very often about trying to gather some popularity within society, but I guess it's also important to kind of see this part of politicians' work, to be the ones who are trying to understand that they are creating this discourse and they have all of the tools to create change. And I would love to see that more in Poland, especially with not autocratic but a highly liberal government right now. And I'm personally afraid that changes that are so needed and so kind of rooted within the source of crises, different crises, the pandemic and biosecurity, the security of our nation when it comes to militarism, the climate justice. I think that these are the issues that are very much rooted within things that the political class are still taking advantage of, and that's the main fight for now. And I think that with seeing all of these overlapping crises, I think that initiatives such as ours or Europapation, I think it's very important for us to also remember how very often we are being played by the political class, but also by those who are really in power. So, for example, fossil fuel CEOs, who are the ones very often creating law in Europe still. And I think that's something that I would love to see us fighting for more, because without divesting from fossil fuels, without investing in our future on many different levels, it's hard to see any good days in future. So I really hope we will do more on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Małgorzata, would you like to add any last words from your side?
Yeah, so I can echo some things that people told my other panelists said before. So basically, thank you so much for bringing together the topics of health, environment, and human rights, because they all loop into each other, and we cannot solve each problem individually. We have to solve them together. And also so thanks so much for focusing on solidarity, because big problems cannot be solved with individual actions only. Like, we really need solidarity and systemic thinking. So that's really very, very important. So thanks so much for this conference.
Thank you so much. And thanking for the conference, I just would like to say it wouldn't be possible, and let me just name the people who made it possible. First of all, Paulina Nowak, who's sitting there, who really took the heavy lifting of organizing this conference. You wouldn't be here, everyone, if not for Paulina. So thank you so much, for Paulina. Also to Krzysztof Mroczkowski, who's the board member of Europa Patient. His voice is not great today, so he couldn't speak his mind, unfortunately, but he was the brain behind the conference, the idea, the panels, lots of stuff. Alexander Temkin, who you can recognize because of the mask he's wearing, and of course, organizer of the two pilgrimages, delegations to Kiev, and a person who is always on the top of the COVID topic, which, as we see, is extremely important. Zofia Sobczak, who joined us as our media officer, so please tweet and retweet the tweets that Zofia's laboriously preparing. Dorota Bentke, she's here. Dorota is also with us from almost the very beginning, doing all the logistics organizations. She's also a member of our board for a long time, and we heard how important the infrastructure is throughout the conference. So it again wouldn't be possible without her. And thank you all for being here. All the materials and the recordings will be available to a wider public quite soon, and we envision that it's not the last Europa Patient Policy and Value Conference. Thank you for all your contributions.